Welcome to Personal Injury Claims Explained by Foyle Legal, your trusted source for personal injury claims in Western Australia. Each week, we simplify complex legal issues, from motor vehicle accidents to workplace injuries, so you can confidently navigate your rights and secure the compensation you deserve.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be talking about something we all do every day, walking. But we're going to be looking at it through a legal lens.
Right. So, we all just kind of assume it's safe to walk around.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It isn't always.
Right.
And to really get into the nitty-gritty of pedestrian safety here in WA, we're going to be taking a deep dive into a really fascinating legal case. It's 2018 WADC 38.
A tragic one, too.
Absolutely. And we'll also be referencing some insights from a blog post by Foyle Legal.
A firm that really knows its stuff when it comes to personal injury cases.
Yeah. So this case revolves around a man who, he was fatally struck by a car while walking his dog in Bicton back in 2013.
Sadly, it happens more often than you'd think.
It does. So for the sake of this discussion, we'll call him Mr. DP.
Sounds good.
Now, what makes this case particularly interesting and honestly pretty important for anyone listening who's ever walked down the street is that there were no eyewitnesses.
You got it. So the court really had to piece together what happened based on the available evidence, and that's where things get tricky.
Like a legal jigsaw puzzle, huh?
Exactly. And this case really highlights the complexities of pedestrian accidents and the legal rights you have as a pedestrian.
I mean, it makes you think, without eyewitnesses, wouldn't the driver's account be like the main story?
You'd think so, right? But that's where the beauty of expert testimony and in-depth analysis comes into play.
Ooh, this is getting good. So set the scene for us. What exactly happened that night?
All right, so picture this. It's a clear, dry night in Bicton on Preston Point Road, 50-kilometer zone.
Okay, got it. Familiar territory.
Now, Mr. DP is crossing the road, but here's the thing. He's crossing diagonally.
Diagonal. Okay, hold on. I have a feeling that detail is going to be important later.
You're sharp. Anyway, as he's crossing, he's hit by a Holden Commodore.
Oh, wow.
The driver, who we'll call Ms. R, claims she simply didn't see him in time.
So it's kind of her word against, the circumstances, I guess.
Exactly. And that's where the experts come in.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me about these experts.
These guys analyzed everything. The street lighting, the driver's line of sight, even the potential reaction time.
Whoa, they went all CSI on this case.
They had to, really, to understand exactly what was possible that night.
So what did they find? Did the experts back up Mrs. R's claim that she couldn't see Mr. DP?
Well, not quite.
Oh.
You see, even though Mr. DP was wearing dark clothing that night, the experts determined that the streetlight near the point of impact would have made him visible from at least 40 meters away.
Really? That far?
Yep. And that directly contradicted Mrs. R's claims that, the incline of the road or her car bonnet obstructed her view.
So basically the experts were saying she should have seen him.
Pretty much. And this leads us to a crucial legal concept: negligence.
Okay, negligence, big word. Break it down for me in normal person terms.
Basically, it means that someone failed to take reasonable care, and because of that failure, someone else was harmed.
So not paying attention or something?
Well, in this case, the court decided that Mrs. R was negligent because she was, speeding, even if it was just a little bit over, and she didn't see Mr. DP in time to stop, even though she should have been able to.
So the driver messed up. Does that mean it's all on her then?
Not necessarily. This is where it gets even more complex. And it brings us to another legal term you should know: contributory negligence.
Contributory negligence. Now it sounds like we're pointing fingers at Mr. DP.
Well, it's not about blame. It's about understanding the full picture, right? Remember how I said the details matter? Well, it turns out that Mr. DP had been drinking beer before the accident.
Ah, okay.
His blood alcohol content was 0.1%.
So the question is, would that have been enough to, impair his judgment while he was crossing the road?
Right. And the defense definitely tried to argue that Mr. DP's drinking was a contributing factor to the accident.
I bet they did. So what did the court say?
Surprisingly, the court actually rejected that argument.
Really?
They said there wasn't enough evidence to prove that Mr. DP's alcohol level significantly impaired his ability to cross the road safely.
Interesting. I mean, you always hear about how any amount of alcohol can be dangerous, but the court didn't see it that way in this case.
Yep. But they did find that Mr. DP was partially responsible because of the way he was crossing the road.
Ah, so it comes back to that diagonal crossing thing.
Exactly. The court pointed out that he was crossing with his back to traffic, and that he didn't check for oncoming cars before stepping out.
Ah, so even though the drinking wasn't a factor, the way he was crossing was.
You got it.
Right.
And that's why cases like this are so important for pedestrians in WA to understand, because it's not always black and white.
No kidding. So we've got the driver who was negligent for not seeing him, and we've got Mr. DP who was also negligent for not looking out for cars. Man, this is complicated.
It is. And that's why it's so important to know your legal rights as a pedestrian, you know? And that's where having legal support, like what you'd find at Foyle Legal, can be a real game changer.
Yeah, starting to see why. This case is like a real eye-opener.
For sure. And we're only just scratching the surface.
So we've got this situation where both the driver and the pedestrian were found to be at fault, like partially responsible.
Yeah.
How does that work when it comes to compensation for, the victim's family? Does it like get split down the middle?
Not always. It depends on the degree of responsibility that's assigned to each party.
So like a percentage thing.
Exactly.
Right.
In this case, the court decided that Mr. DP was 1/3 responsible because of the way he crossed the road.
Oh, okay.
So that means his family's compensation was reduced by 1/3.
That makes sense. But how do they even figure out how much money to award in the first place? I mean, how do you put a dollar figure on a loss like this?
It's complicated, and it's definitely not easy to, quantify the value of human life.
No, for sure.
But the court tries to take a very thorough and, a sensitive approach.
So what did they award in this case?
The court awarded a total of $169,500.26 to Mr. DP's partner.
Okay.
Plus, there were also amounts awarded to their children to compensate for, the loss of financial support and services he would have provided.
Right, because he's not there to, help out anymore.
Exactly.
But how do they even calculate that? It's not like he was bringing in a paycheck every week or anything.
Well, in this case, Mr. DP's income was primarily from Centrelink benefits.
Okay.
But the court recognized that even though those were government benefits, they were still vital to the family's financial well-being.
So they took that into account.
Yeah, they did. And, they didn't just stop there. They also factored in the value of the services he provided at home, like, cooking, cleaning, childcare, all those things that are often overlooked, but actually have a real economic impact on a family.
Wow, they really thought of everything. I never would have considered those the home stuff.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It shows that even though Mr. DP's income wasn't traditional in a sense, it was still crucial to his family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's especially relevant for, people who rely on government assistance because it means those contributions are recognized by the law.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the true impact of the loss on the family's life.
And that's where, having a lawyer who knows this stuff inside and out would be so helpful, right?
100%. That's why firms like Foyle Legal are so valuable. They specialize in personal injury law.
Yeah.
And they understand how to present a case that, really takes all the nuances into account.
This whole case is so fascinating and honestly pretty eye-opening. We always hear about these accidents, but we rarely get into the nitty-gritty of the legal stuff and the long-term impacts.
Right. It's easy to forget that these incidents aren't just statistics, They have real human consequences.
And it feels like with, more distractions these days, especially things like mobile phones, these types of accidents are only going to become more common.
Yeah, it's scary to think about. And it's a real wake-up call for all of us, whether we're behind the wheel or walking down the street.
Totally. So, what can we do to be more responsible? Both as drivers and pedestrians, to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, we all share the road, right?
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility. Drivers need to be extra vigilant, especially in built-up areas where there are going to be more pedestrians around. Put those phones away, stick to the speed limit, and just, be constantly scanning your surroundings.
And for us pedestrians, we can't just assume drivers are going to see us and stop.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be aware, cross the road safely, and make sure we're visible, especially at night.
You got it. Being proactive and aware is the best way to, help prevent these kinds of accidents that can really change your life in an instant.
It really makes you think, even when everyone thinks they're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
something like this can happen.
It can. And that's why it's so important to, understand the law and how it applies to real world situations. A lot of people think, oh, legal help, I only need that if I get in an accident, right?
That's you only call a lawyer if things go wrong.
But like what we've been talking about today, this information, it's powerful, especially for pedestrians here in WA.
So you're saying knowing your rights, knowing the rules of the road, that can actually help you be safer.
Exactly. It's about being informed. And if something does happen, well, you're better equipped to deal with it.
Makes sense. And, speaking of being prepared, firms like Foyle Legal, they offer free consultations, right?
They do. So you can get advice, get your questions answered, all that without having to commit to anything.
Oh, that's good to know. But thinking beyond the legal stuff, what can we do as a community to make our streets safer for pedestrians? I'm thinking things like better lighting,
Lighting is huge. And infrastructure, like well-lit crosswalks, things to slow traffic down, areas that are clearly just for pedestrians.
So it's like we need drivers to be careful, pedestrians to be aware, and then the cities and towns, they got to do their part too.
Yeah, it takes everyone working together, creating a culture where everyone feels safe, whether they're driving or walking.
Well said. This deep dive has been, seriously insightful. Mr. DP's case, it's a stark reminder of the risks, but it's also a call to action, right? We got to be more aware, more responsible, and really think about how we share the road.
Absolutely. And remember, knowledge is power, right? The more you understand about the law, about your rights, the better equipped you'll be to, handle whatever comes your way.
That's true. Well, thanks for taking the time to explain all this. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And everyone listening, stay safe out there.
Thanks for tuning in to Personal Injury Claims explained by Foyle Legal. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes and isn't legal advice. For advice specific to your situation, visit us at Foyle Legal. And don't forget to subscribe or leave a review.